I've spent all my years in believing you, but I just can't get no relief, Lord. But thankfully for us, the world did find somebody to love, and that person was Freddie Mercury, the great pretender, one of the finest musicians that this planet has ever produced, and perhaps the most prolific voice that has ever graced the combined lucky ear canals of our civilization. From Bohemian Rhapsody to Don't Stop Me Now to We Are the Champions, Freddie Mercury's Queen remains to be one of the finest examples of rock ever written, a milestone for the 1970s and a band that stood in a league of their own, heralded by some show-stopping showmanship and a moustache that has cemented itself into the legendary halls of iconic facial hair. Tragically, he was taken from us far too soon, but let's ponder for a moment on a world where Freddie Mercury never sang his final goodbye. Hello internet, and welcome back to the most inquisitive channel on YouTube, Life's Biggest Questions. As per usual, I'll be your disembodied floating voice Jack Finch, as today we curiously ask the question, what if Freddie Mercury was still alive? Roll the clip. All right. Born Farrokh Bulsara on the 5th of September 1946 in the British protectorate of Stone Town, Zanzibar, Freddie and his family were Parsis from the Gujarat region of the then province of British India and were native followers of the Zoroastrian faith. His father, Bomi, had moved his wife and children to Zanzibar so that he could continue his job as a cashier at the British Colonial Office, and thus Freddie was born a British citizen. From the off though, there was something different about him. He was born with 4 supernumerary incisors, essentially an extra small set of teeth, which he would later attribute to his enhanced vocal range. As a child, he had a strange, uncanny ability to listen to the radio and then replay what he had heard on piano. He would become obsessed with the likes of Cliff Richard and Little Richard, the cadence of Western pop music, and the sound of a world that was calling him. In 1964, Freddie and his family fled from Zanzibar to escape the overthrow of its sultanate government and subsequent revolution, and thus Freddie began the long walk on his path to British rock and roll stardom. In April of 1970, after a string of failed bands, Freddie finally teamed up with guitarist Brian May and his drummer Roger Taylor to become the lead singer of a band that they named Smile. They were soon joined by bassist John Deacon, and in 1971 the band's management decided that they needed a much more impactful name. Of course, Freddie Mercury chose the name Queen for its strong regal connotations and its lofty reverence to the gay community, and the rest, as they say, is history. We don't need to shout from the pulpits about the many successes and continued legacies of Queen, because they're second to none and still remain as one of the most peerless musical outfits to have ever graced a stage. We can talk about Queen's 1985 Live Aid performance though, which has been voted time and time again as the greatest live performance in the history of rock music. Do you understand how huge of a deal that actually is? Without trying to sound like the fabled Dewey Finn, or should I say Ned Schneebly of School of Rock fame, rock and roll is a pretty big deal, and it used to be the only way to stick it to the man. But the man ruined that too with a little thing called MTV. And herein lies the basis of our hypothetical biography. The harsh truth is the 80s weren't exactly the kindest era to Queen, and with the rapid expansion of MTV, it spelled the eventual decline of their rock and roll dynasty. Their record sales were in a massive slump, and the only real release of note was the 1982 duet with Mr. David Bowie, Under Pressure. Although Queen fanatics will happily agree that The Miracle and Innuendo were absolutely awesome albums. Following Freddie's tragic passing in 1991, Queen's record sales actually surged dramatically, with half of their 34.5 million US album sales being sold after Mercury's death. But in this alternate reality where Freddie Mercury never died at the age of 45, how would their rock and roll legacy have fared? Some would argue that by dying when he did, Freddie Mercury cemented himself as the vivacious, dark-haired troubadour of operatic note for the rest of eternity. The yellow pants, the white vest, the moustache. Every person on earth associates that image with Queen's legacy, but without it, Freddie's public perception would be uncertain. Although it is important to note that Freddie was far too well dressed to have ever been caught in public as a grey, balding old man. Whilst approaching the 90s, the simple fact is that Queen had failed to make the necessary changes to their music that would have have ensured that they consistently made it into the charts in competition with grunge and MTV. And in all likelihood, the band would have probably split up at some point in the early to mid-90s, or at the very least went on a permanent hiatus. It's highly likely that Freddie would have continued with his solo projects and his exploration and experimentation with opera and popular culture, much like his 1988 solo album Barcelona alongside the legendary Montserrat Caballé, and he would have pushed his work into a much more contemporary avant-garde style. The harsh truth is that toward the end of Queen's reign, they were partly becoming an 80s caricature, with albums such as 1980's Flash and the 1986 release A Kind of Magic, containing songs written for the 80s cinematic classic Highlander, There Can Be Only One. Queen were, and still are to this day, a money-making machine, and it's highly likely that Freddie would have eventually creatively tired of EMI's commercial expansion. Heck, if Freddie was still alive after Wayne's World did the whole Bohemian Rhapsody scene, they would have probably been tied into a 20-year contract making soundtracks for blockbuster movies. And that doesn't sound great, does it? Here's the thing though. Out of 17 songs on Queen's Greatest Hits collection, Freddie himself had penned 10 of them, single-handedly. Freddie Mercury was responsible for the creation of some of the greatest songs ever written, period. You cannot ever write that kind of talent off. True originality always rises to the top despite commercial success. Queen's music lit up the stars way back when, and with Freddie still around to pen some of the greatest tracks ever written, there's no telling where popular culture and the arts would be today. I mean, just listen again. One great rock show can change the world, and one great showman already did. Well, there we have it, folks. How do you think the world would look if Freddie Mercury was still alive today? Why don't you let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Before we depart though, let's read out some of your more creative comments from over the past few days. First up, Jeg Dude says, what if we did start the fire? Well, Jeg Dude, we'd never know because it was always burning since the world been turning. More Billy Joel memes, please. Next up, good golly Miss Molly says, Jack Finch's voice is indeed disembodied, but is it truly floating? Can voices float? Well, Molly, of course voices can float. How else would you explain this? Ooh. Well, unfortunately, folks, that's all we've got time for in today's video. Just sticking around all the way until the end. If you're a fan of this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button as well as that subscribe bell, and we'll be seeing you in the next one, hopefully. As per usual, I've been your disembodied floating voice, Jack Finch, and until next time, you take it easy.